Hello and welcome to Experimental Lab, the daily show with JK. I'm JK, your host, and I'm joined by my teammates and also Walter is here. Walter, don't be shy. It's a happy Friday. We have made it a week, and thank you for all the support and the good work you have done so far. Amar is also there. Welcome, Amar.
Yeah, Isaac.
Well, I have been on a roller coaster ride. We have been talking so many things and also putting through different experiments, setting up different profiles, and doing on those live projects, sharing those live project works as well has also taken place. So I just want Walter to give his comment and his feedback and share his experience. And also, Walter, thank you for that wonderful article. So, about how the modern slavery still exists around the world and how we are trying to fight it out. In terms of the World Cup football, we haven't touched on that topic at all. So you have made a quite a piece of article which will be published on our Stop Now blog as well, and also on our campaign site like Stop H1B Visa. So I'm quite excited for you on that. So I want you to share your experience and how did you come up with that article idea and what made you to make that correlation within this short span of time that idea
Well,
came.
oh yeah, about that. Yeah, I guess a short introduction to that. I just basically started following Association of Football about 2 years ago. So this has been my first like World Cup experience that I was actively paying attention. And back in 2010, Qatar was granted a bid under controversial means. We're not going to go into all of the controversy about that. We're going to focus on the labor because that would be like a 3 hour long conversation just introducing all the controversy about that. But so Qatar was granted the World Cup in 2010 because that was one of the first time. I think it was the only time they announced two at once. It was covering an 8 year span. Russia in 2018, and then Qatar in 2022, and that started a and then at the time, one of the biggest issues was Qatar didn't have any real foundation for hosting the World Cup because they didn't have football stadiums big enough, or the hotel infrastructure big enough, so they had to build 8 World Cup stadiums, 8 full-size World Cup stadiums. I believe the biggest one is 60,000 seater, and all the hotel infrastructure within that period of time from between 2010 to 2022. So what they ended up doing was Hassan Al Thawadi, who was the chief of the team that got Qatar the World Cup again under controversial means, that won't go deep into. Then they basically had to hire migrant workers from poor areas in Qatar, because Qatar, I think per capita, is the richest country in the world. And they hired these workers to come in and build all these stadiums and hotel infrastructures over the past 12 years. And during that, from the research I did, a lot of it I did while I had the flu because it was basically the only thing I could really do, is there is a new Netflix documentary that came out, I believe, a month ago. And it's FIFA. It's called FIFA Uncovered, and it goes in a lot to this. And there's been a lot of talk about the labor issues with these migrant workers, and for a long period of time, the Qatari government were saying that only 4 died, and there's been multiple investigations into it. The latest being The Guardian. They basically said that they found that it seems like around 6,500 migrant workers from these poorer countries have died, and the Qatari government 9 or 10 days ago now opened up and said, okay, 450 to 500 have died in relation to building the built in the construction of World Cup stadiums. They've been very odd talking about it, and a lot of some of the other research done by like the Human Rights Watch which this is how what I found ties into the conversation around the H-1B visa. I'm not saying the H-1B visa holders are going through the same situations, but the Human Rights Watch found that the migrant workers, some of them aren't being paid, some of them are having delayed payment, or some of them are being paid less than what they agreed to work for, and then they're working in the Qatari summers, which they have had to work in, can get up to like 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is in ridiculous weather to work in. So when I was reading through and going through all this, because I thought it was all interesting, because I've been really into reading about all the controversy, what the Qatar government has been saying and not saying, and I saw that aspect of it, and it was like that ties directly into what we're talking about with the H-1B visa. It's not on as the same popularity scale as the World Cup, because the World Cup is the biggest. So that is that is something that I think there's quite a big of a deal that we can relate to and talk to, and see that this is something that is going on across the world and not just an isolated event in the United States.
Maybe Walter has lost his connection. Right.
Yeah, I don't know whether his video was off or really something is going on.
Right.
Probably we can joke about it, saying that like anyone who talks about World Cup will be in trouble. So it's a attack on freedom.
Disappointing way.
Walter, we missed you for quite a few minutes. I don't know whether you realize that. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Like your video went off first, and then like your audio was cracking, and then you dropped off.
Okay, I saw something pop up saying that something happened.
Okay, no issues, right? So again, in terms of violations, right, that you are saying, right, I see that like it's kind of a Western world agenda, right? Some of the news, like people say it, right? We all know that about the Middle East. They are not up to the mark of human rights, and we always know that like labor issues and human right abuse violations are always there, because it's a different world altogether. Just for the sake of attacking them for conducting this World Cup, which has never happened outside of Europe or the American subcontinent, right?
It's happened in Africa. Yeah, it's happened in Africa. I think there's been one in Africa.
Yeah, one in Africa, right? So this is for the first time the Middle Eastern country is trying to, and I'm not like saying this in a derogatory way, but why is that like suddenly like America or other countries wants to be a torchbearer, like when FIFA provided them the opportunity to build their infrastructure and make the stadium and conduct this event, and now you are complaining that like these violation has happened and these many people have died, and making it as a sensational story and attacking them at this point of time. I don't see the logic in it, right? Because it's an ongoing thing. The human right violations and abuses are very prevalent in those countries. Why do you rake this up like during the World Cup alone? That's my point. And well, you do business with them, right? Even Saudi Arabia attacked you, right? And you go on fist bump with them, right? For your own benefit.
It's not the government that are making the United States. It's not the governments of these countries that are making these claims. It's more like journalistic outlets and people. I mean, the issues. I mean, I can go. I mean, I was finding articles all the way back in 2012 talking about the situation. What the oddity about Qatar getting the World Cup was part of the part that gets a lot of details is that they didn't have any of. I mean, it was the first time a country didn't have any of the foundations needed necessary to host a World Cup, and that were granted. They didn't have any of these stadiums built. They didn't have any of the hotels built. It was basically from the ground up, and typically a country that has the World Cup already has all these infrastructures in place as part of the bidding process to show your profile. It's like, oh yeah, we got this ready, we got this ready, they got this ready, we can do this and this and this. And Qatar didn't have any of that, so they had to build it all from scratch. That's one of the parts of contention. That's like, well, then how did they get the World Cup? And then that goes into a whole different subject about bribery, which FIFA has a gigantic problem with. So I mean, like there are a lot of talks from different human rights organizations about human rights abuses there. Does the United States government itself talk about that at a higher level? No, especially with Saudi Arabia, as you mentioned, because they are a ally, as the government says, for reasons that are beyond me other than oil. So they won't say those things directly because of a lot of it is business reasons. So the governments aren't really talking that way. Some of the football associations are, and activists are, and outlets are. So, but the governments aren't saying anything.
In terms of protest, right? So even the government medias are covering it up, right? So I don't know that distance the government viewpoint, and also that's how like every other matter is, like kind of, even if the head of the state makes some absurd comment and then like it is his personal view, people will say all these things. But let's make it more jovial and fun, right? Again, help me out, Walter, right? I still don't understand. The entire rest of the world says like it's football, right? And for Americans, it's like a soccer. Why is that? Have you ever wondered about that?
I mean, it goes back to, I believe it's like 1890 or something. There was is when this gridiron football is what I call it, and to differentiate, was created in the United States, and for some reason it was called.
Again, Walter, we lost your for a minute. Maybe we will get back to that topic, and we are getting a call. Let me go with that call. Hello. Sorry, who's this? Sorry, I still can't hear you clearly. Can you speak up louder?
This is Saurabh from Academy.
Oh, yeah. Tell me. Yes. We have been in conversation.
So I hope it. Yes. He was student of my colleague. He said Vivek. Always come after.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So, how currently I have checked. Currently, you're working as a project manager or as a Scrum Master in the current role.
In the current role, both. I do both. It has like a hybrid model. So I do manage Scrum teams, and they do have the Scrum framework in place.
Okay. So the position, it will be on site from the January, and you are in San Antonio. The position will be in Dallas, Texas. So I think it's around 4 hours drive from your place, right?
No, I will travel. That's not an issue.
Okay, so you are okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, and I hope Vivek have shared some BGC points. So are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Which you have.
Yeah, for background verification, I can share all those things.
Okay, and one more thing, that Scrum certification you have mentioned, Scrum study is equivalent to the CSM, the Scrum Alliance
Yes, I can share that.
Where that-
I can share those details, right? The license number or the document at a later time, once we have the offer.
No, that is not an issue. I'm just asking you. You have mentioned you have Scrum study. Is that as well, or it's different?
It's a different one. There are
Oh,
3 different
okay.
certifying bodies.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now we are moving forward. And basically, what I we get the schedule from the emphasis. Okay.
Okay, so this the interview will be with the emphasis. Is that right, or is it with the end client?
So yeah, L1 with the emphasis panel, and second round with the fidelity.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Mahendra. Thank you. Next question.
Take care. Bye. All right. Yeah, Walter is back. Meanwhile, we didn't waste the time. We had a fun with one of the recruiter and had that call as well taken care of.
Yeah, that's
So,
live
Walter,
broadcast in there.
yeah, this is a bit of a challenge, right? So that is what like we try to do like in the live show, and it always will happen. And we did discussed about like how we can reach out to the background verification companies, and also when they do the background, what all they will ask for. Probably we have not reached out to the background companies, so it will be hard for us like to cover that in the next 10 minutes. So let's continue our conversation with this football thing. So historically, right, so you were talking about, right, American football was different, and even I read some stories and watched some videos like where it was stated that like the English people was not fond of football. Even England banned football for a particular period, and they were trying to destabilize for various reasons. Some of the other European countries like Belgium and all those things, France, Portugal, they formed and they created this FIFA. Am I right? Or am
I think
quoting something?
FIFA came about. I mean, FIFA for most of its existence wasn't a gigantic conglomerate. I don't think that really changed until the 80s when they started becoming like businesses. FIFA came together to pretty much organize and get a clear set of rules, the laws of the game, as they're called in association football, to pretty much say everyone plays by these rules. Because at the beginning, when football was founded, there was people in different cities were playing by different rules, and it was really confusing. So I think that's how FIFA came about. But FIFA, as we know it today, is like $1 billion company with its licensing everywhere and parts sponsorships and all that stuff. That didn't really come about until like the 80s. That's also covered in the FIFA Uncovered documentary as well, so how that all came about and everything. So yeah, I think that's basically what happened, because I mean, football in England when it was created was a very working class thing, and money didn't really come into that the way it has until the past 35, 40 years as well. So the whole football being this massive business type structure, that's somewhat relatively new.
Yes. So let's not go 100 years before, and we cannot justify things like why happened certain things in that way, right? So to move forward, even with this current one, right? So the same tendency, right? Just like monopoly, right? Anyone who wants to start a business or become a competitor like to Apple or to Google, it's not that easy, right? The same thing happens with the country, right? In spite of being a wealthy nations, right? So by abuses only, like they are wealthy, so that's for sure. That's what I can vouch for. For Middle East, Qatar and Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, yeah. So all these wealthy nations like are known to abuse human rights. So we cannot expect them like to rise above all of a sudden, right? It's not going to happen. Culturally, they are so different, and they are oppressing their own women and also own citizen. That's a different story altogether. So for them, like, to compete in the world of football and with the other nations, just like how we cannot justify going to war, but still we are going to war because it is tied to the economy, right? So otherwise, like, people are not simply going to war. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So that's basically what is happening, right? So they have to develop their infrastructure as a new country. They have to build the stadiums. They have to, because the weather conditions are not suitable for them, in spite of all the odds, right? They don't have the manpower or the resources. They provided millions of jobs for these people from underdeveloped countries, laborers, whether they exploited it or investigation has to happen, all those things are fine, right? That is going to parallelly happen on that. But if you don't compete at all, right, they have to develop their tourism industry business in some other sector apart from the oil resources. So that is the reason they are trying to put forward a good front on that. And oh my goodness, this is what happens. Like, our show is mainly on the experiment, and when you keep this, we will be getting the call. As I just showed you, let me pick this call. Hello.
Yeah, am I speaking with Manikananda?
Yes, who's this?
Mani VP this side, calling from Ramin Protect, sir. Okay.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, I'm just sending the job description on your email ID, and you are interested in this position. The position is technical project manager, and it's a remote position, sir. Dallas, Texas.
Yes, I got a response from you saying that the end client, is there like any middle layer, a vendor involved in that, or is just your direct client?
Yeah. I'm working on prime vendor only, sir.
Okay, who is the prime vendor?
Prime vendor not mentioned right now, but one day prior notice you will receive all the details before the interview, sir. Okay, Mani?
Okay, so what are you doing right now here? So you know the end client, but to whom are you going to submit my profile?
Sir, end client is Prochivity, sir.
Yes.
I'm already mentioned.
Vipin, hold on. I understand that. So the question here, right? You know the end client, but you don't know your client, right? For RAM Infotech, you are going to submit my profile to the vendor. Who is that vendor? If you don't know that, like, where are you going to submit my profile? Do you understand?
Monica, actually, I'm not sure right now.
Okay.
Maybe Robert Harp.
So you are new, right?
Robert Harp is in.
Okay. So how long are you working,
sir.
right? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from California, sir.
You are in California? In which city?
Yes, sir. City name just Santa Clara, sir.
Come on, man. I lived there. Like, you just don't have to lie to me. Like, I know like where you are calling from.
Maybe your current location is San Antonio, Texas.
Leave about my current location. I know that, right? Where I am living, I know that. I'm asking, where are you?
So you know very well, sir.
That's what I'm asking you, right? Why don't you tell me that? Like, where in India? You are calling from India.
Yes.
So we are brothers.
I'm calling.
Know that. Tell me, like, where are you calling from?
Sir, I'm from HP.
Himachal
Pradesh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. This is the first time someone talking to from HP. All right. You're working from remote or working from office?
Sir, now I'm working from remote.
Okay, you are working from remote. So do they really pay you?
Right
Is
now.
there like an office of Remy Infotech in HP, or it's just completely outsourced?
Sir, the thing is, just as in nowadays in remote, but in one maybe after 10 days, I'm go on site in Delhi.
So where in on site? Do they even have an office on site in India? In India, they have an office. I don't think Remy Infotech is that a big company.
Sir, yeah, you say so, right? Actually, the thing is, this is the our company policy. So, if you can agree in this position, then we can proceed, sir.
Yeah, we will proceed with that. I'll confirm, and you send me an email. I have a meeting to attend. I'll talk to you later. Is that fine?
Manik, I'm just sending the pay rate. So, you comfortable for this rate?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I'm just sending the rate confirmation email, sir. Okay.
All right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye. So this is exclusively for Walter. I did that. So it's just a fun to have these kind of conversation with them, but they are doing their job. So they will always try to stick to it. And Walter, if you are still with us, you can see that like how this candidate recruiter was struggling to get through it. As I was sharing the screen as well. So the fun part here is like, he knows the end client, he is sourcing it like through different means, and they have provided, I'm sure, pretty sure, 100% sure, he's not employee of Remy Infotech as well. So all he has to do is like get a email access from the company and they outsource it. You have to get us some candidates, good candidates, and submit it to these clients where there is a job. And if you place them, you get a commission. It will be a one-time commission, $2,000, or it depends on client to client, right? Even if it is like a TCS, Cognizant full-time, they just get $5,000. After 3 months of the candidate getting placed in their client and working there for 3 months. So that is the reality. And that's why like this guy is like not ready to have those kind of conversation, revealing his identity, where he is working from. There is certainly a protocol. They do have some offshore office presence, but none of these companies have actual presence, or they don't pay them or keep them on their payroll. So it's worse than the freelance market. That's what like I'm trying to expose here.
So you'll get
Also, one thing,
$5,000 American for.
Again, this is real fun. Walter is having a hard time
right.
and connection.
Yeah, also one thing I want to add, JK, that they are upgrading their system. I can share. I just got one mail from a recruiter. You can see I'm sharing my screen. They are upgrading their system, and you will see. Yeah. See. Yes, maybe no. If you will click yes, it will go to their side. And they will schedule.
Yeah, this is again, right? So through appointment, like they schedule calls. Certain companies like have come up with these kind of plans as well. So this is something like not something new, right? It always exists, but it adds to additional income or revenue for companies to do those kind of things. So this is something not new. Again, to bring this up to our audience, that's good.
Yeah.
Is there like I just thought that was so. Did they not train him to tell him where he was sending then like the resume? Because that should be a straightforward question, and then he didn't know, like he had no idea. Like that kind of surprises me.
So, Walter, this is what happens, right? There are millions of people over there, right? So they just keep these people as a freshers. They give basic training to them. They just barely read the scripts, right? And go with that. And they hardly work for 6 months, 3 months, or even 1 year, and they drop off, lose interest. Many people will not be able to. It's like a marketing job, right? Commission based marketing, right? If you sell the product, you get the commission. Otherwise, like it's like multi-level marketing, right? Amway and various other frauds are there, scams. So something like that, like these companies like exploit the human resources that is available in plenty in those countries and just throw them out. Like they might be college graduate or school dropouts or freshers. And the surprise part, many are like even engineering graduates, masters. They do these things, recruiters, because they don't have jobs, because they produce like millions of engineers every year. And they end up like, I want an IT career. Like there is no job for you. So do this recruitment job. So if they survive for 2-3 years in this, they become a senior and they do this in a proper way. And this poor guy is obviously at his home, so he doesn't have clear instruction. All he has to do is like stick with the script, get the resume, and then pass it on to the manager or submit it to their client, and then wait for some magic to happen at his end.
Yeah. I mean, that just seems to be such a bait. Like, how do they not tell him where they are submitting the? I mean, that should be a basic thing, because I mean, I would think anyone who's applying for a job in that scenario would want to know, well, if you're not sending it to the end client, then where's it going? Like, what's your purpose? And they didn't tell him and didn't prepare him at all for that question, like at all. And it's just like, okay, that's a bit alarming. And then the whole thing.
That's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying, right? They have been thrown into the well, right? And say like, okay, go on, learn to swim. They're not going to teach you the techniques or how to survive and all those things. They'll just throw them in the ocean and say like, okay, you swim. If you live, you can come back and do what you want. That's how like this happens.
Yeah, and before, like when you were talking about the World Cup, because I have no idea what's going on with Zoom today. But I did want to say it is I do think a lot of the agreement a lot of the frustration a lot of it does come from some of the human rights issues, but we're seeing right now in Iran, where there's a lot of protests going on and the government is cracking down really hard. I'll share this. I told you privately that I was approached for a freelance writing thing by someone, a Qatari woman, and she decided to go and berate me through messages after I told her I am not comfortable doing that because, killing LGBT people is literally in your legal system. Like it says it right there, and she didn't like that very much. And then decided to bring up everything about the United States. I was like, I never said anything about the United States being perfect. Like, I don't know why you're bringing whataboutism into that. And that lasted for 2 days until I had to report it. I was like, this is ridiculous. So I mean, like it's a thing, but I don't mean it, like, because a lot of the issues, like Saudi Arabia is more popular for this. They do a lot of what's been called sports washing. They have a deal with the WWE where they pay WWE $60 to $80 million for every single show that they do, horrible show that they do in Riyadh, I think it's called. I can't remember, but they go to Saudi Arabia like once every 4 or 5 months, and they pay them a lot of money. They have a deal with Lionel Messi, who gigantic football player. They're paying him upwards of like $30 million a year because they want the World Cup soon, and to just make them look better. And Lionel Messi doesn't really think. I guess he doesn't care if that's they stone women and stuff like that.
Yeah, Walter. So this boils down to people who have money. They have the power, so they control and they play it the way they want to. So that's apart from what continues to happen in the realm of human rights, right? So let's continue this conversation again. So we have exceeded our time limit, but still it was a fun conversation. It was a fun weekend, and we really opened a different arena in the domain of human right violations, and particularly, right, so how you related this topic to the H1B, we will address that. Similar to it, right, even illiterates or half literates or not that educated people are trapped in those Middle Eastern countries, and they have legal course there, right? They can make complaints. The problem is they don't have that familiarity with Arabic. Nobody knows, right? Millions of people go there and they work there just like slaves. We have to be honest on that. And that's their choice. They make it to make some money for their family and to create betterment. But same thing, right? Even in the developed nation, people come as a qualified, highly educated people, and they have the option to make complaint about abuses. Still, they don't do it. Don't we see that irony, right? And how can we like preach other world, like saying that like, oh, clean up, like this is not how you have to treat. First, let you do the work. You fix your problems, right? That's my concern, right? So millions of people are there in H1B. Nobody will dare to come up and talk to us. The reason, except one or two exceptions. So who have become a victim and who have survived, they are willing to share, and we will be talking to them in our talk shows, and we will have an extensive interview with them, and we will do our part in this journey. That's all I have to say for now. And thank you for your service, Walter. And really, I enjoy the conversation with you. And thank you, Amar, for sticking with us like for almost a year and trying to work as a slave. I'm just joking. It's fun to have you, man. Right. Bye for now.
Bye.